The Ghost General. How George S. Patton became invisible to win the war. November 8, 1944, somewhere near Metz, France. A column of mud-caked infantrymen trudges through freezing rain. Their boots are soaked, their rifles are heavy, their eyes are hollow. Among them walks a figure no one notices. His helmet is dented, his field jacket is torn at the shoulder. 3 days of stubble covers his jaw, no stars on his collar, no ivory-handled pistols on his hips, no polished cavalry boots. Just another tired soldier, shuffling through the hell of the Western Front. A sergeant from the 5th Infantry Division glances at him, looks away, spits tobacco juice into the mud. "Rough day, old man's." The figure nods, says nothing. Keeps walking. 3 hours later, that same sergeant will stand at attention in a command tent, face white with shock, as the man he called Old Man issues orders that will reshape the entire European campaign. His name is George Smith Patton Jr., and he is about to become a ghost. Section 1, The Mask of War. August 1, 1944, 3rd Army Headquarters, Nehu, France. The liberation of France is underway. In a cramped farmhouse 20 miles behind the front lines, Lieutenant General George S. Patton stands over a table covered in maps. Pins mark German positions. Blue arrows show Allied advances. Red circles indicate trouble spots. But Patton isn't looking at the maps. He's looking at a report. Casualty figures from the 4th Armored Division: 47 killed, 112 wounded, 18 missing in a single day. His jaw tightens. Intelligence says the Germans are retreating, says his chief of staff, Brigadier General Hobart Gay. Intelligence, Patton's voice is barely a whisper. Intelligence sits in tents 50 miles from the fighting and tells me what's happening based on radio intercepts and aerial photographs. He throws the report onto the table. "I need to see it myself." Gay hesitates. "Sir, the front is fluid. There are German stragglers everywhere. Snipers, it's not safe for." "Not safe for what? For generals," Patton laughs, a short, bitter sound. When has war ever been safe for anyone? He reaches for his famous uniform, the polished riding boots, the lacquered helmet, the ivory-handled Colt .45 revolvers. Then stops. Stares at them. "Every German sniper from here to Berlin knows what I look like," he says quietly. "Every enemy soldier has seen my photograph in their newspapers. They know the helmet, they know the pistols, they know the stars." He picks up the gleaming helmet, runs his fingers across the 3 stars painted on its front. "If I want to see the truth, I cannot be George Patton." Gay watches as his commander sets down the polished helmet and reaches for something else. A standard issue M1 steel pot, dented, scratched, anonymous. "Sir, get me a field jacket without insignia, standard issue, something that looks like it's been through hell." "General, I don't understand." "I'm going to the front, Hap, but I'm not going as a general." He pulls on the shabby jacket, tucks his famous revolvers into a footlocker. "I'm going as a ghost." Section 2, The First Disappearance. August 3, 1944, Avranches, France, 600 hours. The breakthrough at Avranches has torn a hole in the German lines. American armor is pouring through, tanks, half-tracks, trucks loaded with infantry, a river of steel and men flowing into the heart of France. And somewhere in that river, invisible to everyone, walks the commanding general of the 3rd United States Army. Patton moves among the troops like any other soldier. His helmet is pulled low, his shoulders are hunched, he walks with the shuffling gait of an exhausted infantryman. No one recognizes him. This is deliberate. He stops near a Sherman tank from the 6th Armored Division. The crew is eating cold rations, their faces black with smoke and oil. "How's the resistance?" Patton asks. A corporal shrugs. "Germans are running, but command keeps telling us to wait for fuel that never comes. We could be in Brittany by now if the brass would get their heads out of there." He stops, squints at the shabby officer. "You with supply?" "Something like that." "Well, tell whoever's in charge that we're dying out here while they're sitting on their fuel dumps." Patton nods slowly. "I'll pass that along." He moves on. 3 more hours of walking, 3 more hours of listening, sergeant after sergeant, private after private, each one speaking freely because they think they're talking to nobody. By noon, Patton has learned more about the actual state of his army than 2 weeks of formal intelligence briefings have told him. The fuel situation is worse than reported. Morale is higher than expected. The replacement system is a disaster. And his men hate the waiting. They want to attack, they want to move, they want to end this war. At 1400 hours, Patton returns to his command post. He removes the shabby helmet, pulls on his stars. Hapt, his voice is different now, commanding, electric. Sir, get me Bradley on the phone. We're moving up the timetable. The Germans are broken and my men know it. We're not waiting for permission. General Gay stares at him. How do you know all this? Patton smiles, a wolf's smile. Because I asked them. Section 3, The Art of Invisibility. August 15, 1944, Argenton, France. The Falaise pocket is closing. 50,000 German soldiers are trapped between American and British forces. The greatest encirclement since Stalingrad is within reach. But there are problems. The boundary lines between armies have become political minefields. Montgomery's forces are moving too slowly. Bradley has ordered Patton to stop. The gap remains open. And Germans are escaping, thousands of them, every hour. Patton paces his headquarters like a caged tiger. Stop, he nearly screams the word. He's telling me to stop. Colonel Charles Codman, his aide-de-camp, nods grimly. General Bradley's orders, sir. You're not to advance beyond Argenton. Those are American boys dying out there because we won't close the gap, because of boundary lines, because of politics. He grabs his shabby helmet, his anonymous field jacket. Sir, where are you? To see for myself what we're throwing away. 2 hours later, Patton is standing on a ridge overlooking the Falaise road. He is invisible, unmarked, just another observer in a sea of artillery forward observers and reconnaissance troops. Below him, German columns are streaming east, trucks, horse-drawn wagons, thousands of soldiers on foot, the remnants of 2 German armies escaping because the Allied command structure cannot coordinate. A captain standing nearby curses under his breath. We could end this war right now, he says to no one in particular. Right here, right now, we have the artillery, we have the tanks, we have everything we need except permission. Patton says nothing. But he remembers. He remembers every word. That night, in a blistering phone call to General Omar Bradley, Patton makes his case. I was there, Brad. I saw them escaping. Not from intelligence reports, not from aerial photographs. I was there, standing on the ridge, watching them go. Bradley's voice is cold. You were at the front, in an active combat zone. I was where a commander needs to be. Silence. George, you could have been killed. And if I hadn't gone, I wouldn't know that we're letting 60,000 Germans escape because we're worried about stepping on Monty's toes. Bradley sighs, the sound of a man who knows he's going to lose this argument. I'll talk to Eisenhower. Section 4, The Enemy's Eyes. August 20, 1944, German Intelligence Headquarters, Paris. Enemy perspective. The office is thick with cigarette smoke. Colonel Helmut Mayer, Chief of German Intelligence for the Western Front, spreads a series of photographs across his desk. Where is Patton? His aide, a nervous captain, shakes his head. We've confirmed 3rd Army positions. We've identified his headquarters, but Patton himself. Yes. He appears, then disappears. Our spotters report sightings that don't match. Sometimes he's in full regalia, sometimes he's invisible. Mayer studies the photographs. Patton at a press conference in England. Patton saluting troops in Normandy. Patton in his famous helmet and pistols. This is the man who slapped soldiers, the man who craves attention, the man who cannot stop talking. He taps the photographs. You're telling me this man is practicing subtlety. I'm telling you, Herr Colonel, that our snipers have standing orders to target him. We have photographs distributed to every unit. We have bounties offered. And yet. Our best shooter had him in his sights 3 days ago near Chartres, 300 meters, perfect conditions. Mayer leans forward, and he said it couldn't be Patton. The uniform was wrong. No stars, no pistols, no polished boots, just a dirty lieutenant walking among the enlisted men. A dirty lieutenant, who turned out to be the commanding general of the Third Army. Mayer is silent for a long moment. He's adapting, he says finally. The Americans are learning. He lights another cigarette. This makes him more dangerous than ever. Section 5. The Fuel Crisis. September 1, 1944, Verdun, France. The Third Army has advanced further and faster than any army in history. 400 miles in 26 days, 12 major river crossings, 100,000 prisoners, 200 towns liberated. And now it stops. Not from German resistance, but from lack of fuel. Patton stands in his command post, surrounded by generals and colonels, and the rage in him is volcanic. We are 48 hours from the German border, 48 hours, and you're telling me we're stopping because Eisenhower is giving our fuel to Montgomery. Brigadier General Walter Bedell Smith, Eisenhower's chief of staff, is on the other end of the radio. His voice is calm, patronizing. The decision has been made, George. Market Garden takes priority. Market Garden is a fantasy. Monty's going to jump into Holland and get his paratroopers slaughtered while I sit here and watch the Germans rebuild their defenses. The Supreme Commander has spoken. The line goes dead. Patton throws the radio handset across the room. Then stops. Thanks. I need to see what we're losing, he says quietly. By dawn the next day, he's gone again. For 3 days, General Patton disappears from the official record. His staff knows only that he's conducting forward reconnaissance. What they don't know is that he's walking among his stranded tank crews, sleeping in foxholes with infantry sergeants, eating cold rations with truck drivers who haven't moved in 48 hours. He sees the frustration firsthand. He hears the curses. He watches his men, the finest army in the world, sit idle while the war hardens around them. On September 4th, he returns to headquarters with a list. Every fuel dump between Verdun and Paris, every captured German depot, every alternative source. Siphon it from captured vehicles, steal it from the British if you have to. I don't care how you get it, just get it. His chief of logistics stares at the list. Sir, this is irregular. This is war. By September 6th, Third Army is moving again. Not at full strength, not with permission, but moving. Because one general walked among his men and learned the truth. Section 6. IK's concern. September 15, 1944, SHAEF Headquarters, Versailles ***. General Dwight D. Eisenhower stands at a window watching rain streak across the glass. Behind him, his intelligence chief is finishing a report. And that's when we lost track of him again. 3 days, General. No one at Third Army Headquarters could confirm his location. Eisenhower turns, his face is tired, worried. George is going to get himself killed. With respect, sir, he seems to be getting results. Results? Eisenhower shakes his head. He's walking through active combat zones dressed like a private. He's talking to enlisted men without anyone knowing who he is. He's gathering intelligence that contradicts our official reports. He pauses. And he's usually right. The intelligence chief nods slowly. His casualty predictions have been more accurate than ours. His assessments of German strength have been more accurate. His understanding of troop morale is perfect. Eisenhower finishes the sentence, because he's there, listening, watching, invisible. He sits down heavily. I told him once that he was the finest assault commander the Army had ever produced. I'm starting to think I underestimated him. Sir, he's not just a commander anymore. He's an intelligence network, a one-man reconnaissance unit, a ghost. Eisenhower lights a cigarette. Make sure his security detail knows to keep closer track of him, discreetly. I can't afford to lose George Patton to a German sniper who gets lucky. Section 7. The Metz Crisis. November 8, 1944, outside Metz, France. The fortress city of Metz has never fallen to assault. Not to Attila the Hun, not to the Prussians, not to any army in 1500 years. And now the Third Army is stalled before its walls. Rain has turned the battlefield to soup, casualties are mounting. The Germans, reinforced and dug in, are making the Americans pay for every inch. Patton knows the official reports say his army is advancing steadily. He knows the official reports are lies. At 400 hours on November 8th, he slips away from his command post. By dawn, he's walking among the men of the 5th Infantry Division. His helmet is dented, his field jacket is torn at the shoulder, 3 days of stubble covers his jaw. No one recognizes him. He spends 6 hours in the mud with his troops, watches them attack a German pillbox, sees 3 young Americans die in the attempt, helps carry wounded to an aide station. At one point, a sergeant looks at him strangely. "You remind me of someone, sir." Patton shrugs. "I have one of those faces." The sergeant nods, goes back to fighting. That night, Patton returns to headquarters and rewrites the entire operational plan for Metz. His staff is stunned. "Sir, these changes, they contradict everything our intelligence says about German defensive positions." "Your intelligence is wrong. I was there. The Germans aren't strongest where we think they are. They're strongest where we're not looking." "How do you know this?" Patton smiles. "Because a corporal from Kansas told me, and he was right." Section 8, The Bulge. December 16, 1944, Luxembourg. The impossible happens. 3 German armies, 250,000 men, 1,000 tanks, come screaming out of the Ardennes forest. The Battle of the Bulge has begun. American units are shattered. Entire regiments surrender. The greatest crisis of the European war is unfolding, and the Allied command is paralyzed with shock. Except Patton. While other generals are still trying to understand what's happening, Patton is already moving. "I knew this was coming," he tells his staff. 2 weeks ago, I walked among the troops near the Ardennes. They told me the Germans were massing. They could hear tanks at night. They could see supply convoys moving east." "Why didn't they report it?" "They did report it. No one listened. No one listens to privates and corporals. No one listens to the men who are actually there." He slams his fist on the table. "I listened, now we move." Within 48 hours, Patton performs a military miracle. He turns 3 divisions, 100,000 men, 90 degrees north, in the middle of winter, while under attack through impossible terrain. And on December 26th, the Third Army smashes into the German flank and relieves Bastogne. It is the greatest feat of military agility in modern history. And it happens because one general never stopped walking among his men. Section 9, The Final March. March 22, 1945, the Rhine River. Montgomery is planning his elaborate assault crossing of the Rhine. Artillery preparations, air support, weeks of buildup, massive logistics. Patton crosses the river with a phone call. "Brad, we're across." "Across what?" "The Rhine, we're on the east bank." General Omar Bradley nearly drops the phone. "George, that's impossible. We haven't even begun the preparatory bombardment." "I know, we went anyway. Last night, 4 assault boats and a battalion of infantry." "How did you know the Germans weren't waiting in strength?" Patton laughs. "Because I walked the West Bank yesterday dressed as a sergeant. I talked to the German prisoners we'd captured. I looked at the positions with my own eyes, and I knew." Silence on the line. "You're going to be the death of me, George." "No, Brad, I'm going to win this war, by being where the fighting is, by listening to the men who do the fighting, by being invisible." He pauses. "A general who can't be seen can see everything." Section 10, The Ghost's Legacy. April 15, 1945, Germany. The Third Army is deep in Germany. The war is weeks from ending. And Patton walks among his troops one last time. He moves through a column of tanks near Chemnitz, helmet pulled low, stars hidden, just another figure in olive drab. A young soldier, no more than 19, offers him a cigarette. "Rough wars, huh?" Patton takes the cigarette, lights it. "You have no idea, son. Think we'll be home by summer. Patton looks east, toward the sound of distant artillery. I think you'll be home by summer, and I think you'll have earned every minute of peace you get. The soldier nods, grins. Hey, you know who I'd like to meet before this is over? Old blood and guts himself, Patton. They say he's a real son of a bitch, but the men who serve under him say he actually gives a damn about us. Patton is quiet for a moment. I've heard the same thing. He walks away. Invisible. Section 11, Historical Verdict. Analysis, the Ghost General's Legacy. In the 6 decades since World War II ended, military historians have studied every aspect of George S. Patton's command. His tactics, his logistics, his psychological warfare. But only recently has serious attention been paid to his practice of anonymous reconnaissance. General Martin Dempsey, former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, wrote in 2010. Patton understood something that many modern commanders have forgotten. You cannot lead from a conference room. You cannot understand your enemy from a briefing slide. You must be there. You must see. You must listen. And sometimes you must be invisible. The statistics speak for themselves. Patton's Third Army traveled further and faster than any army in American history. 281,243 casualties inflicted, 144,500 prisoners taken, over 1 million square miles of territory captured. And throughout it all, Patton personally visited the front lines more than 400 times. How many of those visits were made in disguise, we will never know for certain. His personal papers mention forward reconnaissance frequently. His aides wrote of disappearances lasting hours, sometimes days. German intelligence reports from the period are full of frustrated attempts to target him, foiled by his unpredictable movements and anonymous appearance. Historian Carlo D'Este, in his definitive biography, notes, Patton's willingness to abandon the trappings of rank was not ego sacrifice, it was ego transcendence. He understood that a commanding general's greatest enemy is not the adversary across the field. It is the isolation of command, the bubble of yes men and filtered reports. He burst that bubble by becoming, when necessary, nobody at all. The German perspective is equally illuminating. After the war, Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt was asked which American general he feared most. His answer was immediate. Patton, not because of his tanks or his aircraft or his firepower, but because we never knew where he was. Our intelligence could track his army, we could track his headquarters, but Patton himself, he was a ghost, he could be anywhere, he could appear at any point on the line. That uncertainty was more demoralizing than any weapon. General Eisenhower, in his memoirs, offered perhaps the most succinct assessment. George Patton was many things, brilliant, profane, difficult, irreplaceable, but above all he was present, he was there. When other generals were reading reports about the war, George was living it, and that made all the difference. Closing. December 21, 1945, Heidelberg, Germany. 9 months after the German surrender. An American military hospital. George S. Patton lies in a bed, paralyzed from the neck down after an automobile accident. He will die in 8 days. But he is not thinking about death. He is thinking about a muddy road near Metz, a young sergeant with tired eyes and tobacco-stained teeth, a question asked of a stranger. Rough day, old man. Patton smiles. In the greatest war in human history, he commanded an army of 400,000 men. He liberated countries. He defeated enemy forces 3 times his size. He earned the fear of Hitler himself. And he did it by becoming invisible. By walking among his troops as one of them. By listening to the soldiers that other generals never saw. By being the ghost that his enemies could never find. The nurse adjusting his pillow sees the smile. General, can I get you anything? Patton's voice is weak, barely a whisper. No, thank you, I was just remembering. Remembering what, sir? He closes his eyes. A man I used to be, a man no one recognized. The nurse doesn't understand. She never will. But somewhere in the records of the 3rd United States Army, scattered across after-action reports and intelligence summaries, the proof remains. Of a general who became a private. Of a legend who became a shadow. of a man who won a war by becoming no one at all. A general who can't be seen, he said once, in a moment of rare reflection, can see everything. George S. Patton died on December 21, 1945. The ghost was laid to rest. But the legend, the real legend, of the commander who walked invisible among his men was only beginning. General George S. Patton Jr. is buried in the Luxembourg American Cemetery alongside 5,076 American soldiers who served under his command. He requested to be buried among his men. To the end, he remained one of them. Fade to black.